We must be the same at home as we are at work. We must be the same on task as we are off task, which means safety really isn't about safety, is it? It really is about love and respect and self-discipline. It really is about consistency and doing everything we know how to do to eliminate our distractions and be the same on stage as we are off stage, especially when no one is watching. Although sometimes I ride home with my buddies who are forced to be safe on the job, and yet when they get in their pickup truck and give me a ride home, they don't wear their seatbelts. They're just cruising and bumping and flying down a dirt road, can't wait to get home, change their clothes, and go hunting or fishing. Safety isn't really about safety after all. Let me conclude by sharing a tragic story that I hope will step on our toes and shake you to your core. A dear friend of mine was vice president of a nationally known corporation. In fact, if I mentioned the name, you would recognize it. And he was the senior vice president. When he walked into a boardroom, it was like the old E.F. Hutton commercial. When he spoke, people stopped and listened. He had that much respect, that level of authority and power, if you will, in the corporate arena. Everybody admired him because of who he was, his education, his amazing wisdom, and his ability to set an example in the corporate setting. Well, this individual happened to have 12 children, and they were very musically talented. They were truly the modern-day Von Trapp family singers. In fact, they were so talented that they actually sang for the Pope at the Vatican. They had been on national TV many times, and they had a huge following. Interesting. Dad, although he made lots of money and at least enough money to purchase a large van, if you will, or a motorhome that would transport he and his wife and their 12 children anywhere they traveled to perform, for some reason he rationalized himself out of buying a large vehicle, and they would caravan in 2 4-door sedans. You do the math. Dad driving one of the 4-door sedans and 6 children in that car. By modern math, there aren't enough seat belts. And isn't it a law in every one of our states that every person in the car must be in a restraining device, especially our youngest children? Mother is driving the other 4-door sedan with the other 6 children. Modern math, not all of them had their seatbelts on either. On one Sunday, when they were returning home from a giant musical performance, can you imagine? The people were doing the wave. The people were chanting their names. They were clearly celebrities and so talented and worth every single standing ovation that they had ever received, that they always received. But driving home, bumper to bumper, Dad's car in front, Mom's car following, Dad lost concentration. He ran a stop sign and got broadsided and T-boned by an oncoming truck. The collision was brutal, and his 3 youngest children, who were not strapped in seatbelts, were ejected from the car and died immediately at the scene of the accident. Dad got out of intensive care just in time to attend the funeral of his 3 youngest children. I have a question. Have any of you ever been to a funeral lately? Melancholy experience, right? Any of you ever been to a funeral where you walk in and there's a viewing or a wake and it's an open casket and you pay tribute to that individual lying there, and comments are like, well, yeah, she lived a great life because she was 88 years of age. My question is, have you ever attended a funeral where you walk in the church and it's highly attended because the neighborhoods and the communities and their church leaders and their government leaders all came to support the family in this brutal time of sadness and mourning? Perhaps 2,000 people attended this funeral service, this memorial. But when you walk in and you see these 3 miniature caskets, your heart breaks. And you see Dad sitting on the front row, all beaten up and sewn up, just barely surviving so he could attend this funeral for his 3 youngest children. and you sit there and you have a mixed emotion of sadness, mourning, and anger. Why? This gentleman, senior vice president of his company, was very, very well respected and good at work. But for that moment in time, he was a lousy dad. Safety isn't about safety. It's about consistency and being exactly the same on stage as we are off stage. And here's the tragic ending to this discussion. We get in the car at the parking lot of this giant chapel, this memorial service. And as we pull out of the parking lot and turn right to drive down the road, we're kind of in this daze. And we followed a car in front of us, and I wasn't even thinking about what was going on in the car in front of us until we pulled up to the stoplight, which turned red. And the car in front of us, who had also been in the parking lot of the church, which meant they had also attended the exact same funeral service that we had just attended, they had cried the same tears. They perhaps had felt the same level of anger and confusion about, oh my gosh, we feel so sad, but we're so mad that he wasn't the dad that he needed to be. When we snapped out of that trance, I noticed that the car in front of us had a gentleman driving, I suppose it was the father, a mother sitting next to him in the passenger side, and in the back seat, there were two young children crawling all over their car seats who were not strapped in on their ride home. Safety and our messages on a safety day and in a safety convention like this one have to include what are we going to do when we leave here, especially when no one's around. So safety one-on-one, it's what we do when no one's around that makes us or breaks us. It's what we do when no one's around that makes us or breaks us and showcases our true character and who we really are. May I challenge all of us to be exactly who we say we are, exactly who people think we are, so that we return home safely after every day at work and then return back to work the next day and keep that cycle of safety alive and well. Not because it's expected by OSHA, not because it's expected by your safety leaders, but because it's demanded of yourself.